Okay, we'll go to the, Luke, do you want to do the infrastructure one, and then Phil's going to chair the CCHL one because Melanie and I can't. So do you want to come up for that? And I think we had an additional resolution.
Very polite nights, by the way. Style.
Yeah, 17, 18.
Yeah, as the principal advisor.
Although I know, I'm just okay. Right, so we'll take the paper as read, but I think it's worth just if there's any high level things you want to touch on at the beginning.
I think Councillor Kewen, you're going to introduce that. Is that right?
Oh, I can. Yeah, so this came out of a notice of motion to try and reduce the costs that we pay for our infrastructure. So we had a number of meetings and got some answers. We got some pretty good assurances around the council's current processes and how things cost what they do, what staff do to try and reduce costs or look to reduce costs going forward. What we didn't do was find any silver bullets on how to save money, and that's because of what the process we went through and what we looked at the system of what is, not what can be. And I think going forward, we need to, in the next term, reignite this working group with a different focus going forward to now go out to our suppliers and ask them for suggestions. And I think we should do that in a way where we ask, they can either tell us with their name attached or anonymously and feed into, because if you're an elected member, you should have heard from multiple contractors over your terms/decades of ways the council could save money. Now, some of them just aren't realistic or true, but some people are sometimes sitting on a gem. And I saw that in the health system, and I also saw it ignored in the health system when there was an award-winning system that's now been picked up overseas and is making literally tens of millions of dollars for the developers. And those that now hold the IP, and the health system in New Zealand ignored it and used it in one place. So it can happen, and that one is a clear silver bullet, and hopefully they do exist in infrastructure, and by the amount infrastructure has gone up over the years, there should be some savings to hopefully be made, but it'll take a number more things, but we can have assurance that on all the stones we turned over, we basically found that the staff would going through what you'd call best practices to not overspend.
Thank you for that, Aaron. That's really good. So we'll take papers read. Do you want to add anything at the beginning, and then keen to?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It was a good introduction. Thank you.
And the things that we did discuss with the working party, it's not a we look at options every day, we question things every day, and you know, as a GM signing off some of these major procurement initiatives and things, we push back all the time and go, is this really the right way to go? And especially when we've got options like involvements and things like that. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox, and we use them regularly.
We've shown a number of examples where changes have been made or new things have been found over the last number of years. So that was good when the questions come up.
You might see that in some of the procurement plans before.
Yes. We've got a resolution that we talked about at agenda setting, which was based on the theme of the report, which hopefully we can just chuck up, which is a council, I'm sure, will agree with it. It's around how we get more small businesses working on the panels, more small local businesses, which was one of the things through. I'm just, oh yeah, sorry, there's nothing worse than me going. Just waiting for something. So okay, while that's getting generated on there, we'll go to Yanni and then Yanni.
Thanks. One of the projects I raised concern with was Antigua Street. I just look at that at a very basic level. It looks like we could employ, 5 to 7 traffic engineers full-time for a year, just with the budget that we have for design and engagement. And so I'm struggling to get my head around why these costs are so horrific. When you look at the cost of an FTE and what we're trying to deliver, I don't see where, I know the working party looked at it straight, but the response I got back was just, it didn't really address why the costs are so high. And I'm just wondering,
Okay, so that's a good question. Tam?
how do we address that kind of?
No, yep, just, I've got the point, yep.
So we do regularly look at capacity and capabilities, especially within our design area. And one of the main areas we looked at was in supervision. We have taken on additional staff in that area. We will never staff to the point of being able to deliver 100% of the program because the program fluctuates. In terms of design or specific or specialist design, we will never get to the point internally where we will have all those skills. There may still be a cheaper option to put some of those out without going into the specifics of the job, which I'm not right across. There are times when, through expediency, through other reasons, we just have to go out to the market and get that work done. Antigua Street, I think, if you recall,
Don't even, let's not go into
it had to be done reasonably quickly. So it was. We do review it. I do review it, and so does procurement. And we push back, and where possible, we'll put a business case forward for bringing that stuff in-house.
So, I mean, I guess the question is, have you benchmarked against the cost of doing it per metre or whatever it might be? But you're talking about a very small project in the scheme of things. I mean, it's literally like a block and a half. So, how do we have confidence that what we're paying is actually fair for what we're trying to achieve?
So for it to end up on the annual plan, it uses a very basic estimate. But then before we go up to market, there's a much more detailed estimate done. It's based on market rates and other information available, and any tender prices tested against that.
Just with that example, yes, it's a short street, but there's a lot crammed into that short street. There's a complex intersection at the far end, and we haven't done lessons learned on it, as Lynette's just said either. So we will look at that and go, can we do this better?
All right, and just the again, I mean, I asked about Kiwi Rail, and you've sent back some information, which is good, that went to audit and risk. Is there any lessons of what we could be doing from the infrastructure working group to minimise the cost impacts of the Kiwi Rail things? Because when I read the memo, again, the costs have been, although they've been reduced for the ones that have numbers, a lot don't have numbers. And there's still a lot of question marks about what's going to be done.
All right, yep.
It's still really high.
So they've got your question, yep.
In that situation, the costs will come from what we managed to negotiate. I mean, it's a moving feast with Kiwi Rail, and we don't have final costs.
We don't have final costs, but also we have obligations, and we are making changes. So we are a party in this relationship with Kiwi Rail, and I think the report to ARMC showed that we are working clearly and well with them to both sides to understand each other's drivers and to work to the best both our abilities.
But they've still got a gold level of service that we can't afford.
They've got an act of parliament which drives safety and their views on that. It's a bit like working with Orion on electrical stuff. We have an obligation to comply.
And the ARMC report discussed that in the
So
requirements.
final question from me, just so I've been trying to understand for a long time now that when I was on council and the council voted by majority to go to the panel delivery for the MCRs, so it brought in, as I understand it, private people into councils to work on the MCRs. I was just trying to understand, and at the time I was told we needed specialist advice, and I thought it would have been more cost effective to just employ people directly as a city. But we're going to get an understanding of that decision and what the cost of the MCRs were, and what may have been other options to do it more affordably.
Another lessons learned.
We have reported on that before, and there were, I mean, to not go into the nth degree of the detail here because I don't have it, but at the time, the procurement process for both the construction and the design of that, and we didn't bring them in-house, they were a contracted, so we contracted 2 firms to do it, to do the work. But to do that, those procurement plans with the rationale for that and detailed rationale and planning was brought to council and those decisions were made at the time. What I couldn't answer from a question, you know, at 4 o'clock last night was how much all the detail of that is. So we can work through that and provide you with that information, but it will be quite a detailed and involved report in order to do that and look back. What this working party has done and working with the working party has looked at how we are changing how we work every day when we think about new projects. But once you do a procurement process, you put your rationale forward, which is the best information you have on that day. Once you do that, you're in it. And so we've looked back and we've talked about the MCR process. We're not using it to the same degree right now. The program's less, so it's changing, but our world has changed over the almost 15 years that we've been doing MCRs.
So the interest in that was just to understand whether there's things that we could do in-house that would give us more affordable solutions, maybe more affordable and more deliverable in terms of getting things done than the use of sort of, you know.
I think the only,
That's what we.
but one of the things I know, because Phil and Lynette have talked about it a bit, is around some of the cycleways and getting a lot more of that done of what's left, I guess, in-house, because I mean, I think, like, for a real basic example, one we fell short the other day, I think you would tell me about, was around Church Corner, where and I think you've raised it too, Tyler, the turnout is not right. So it's too narrow, and yet the contractors were telling us at the time that it should have been widened, but it didn't seem to get through. So there's a few of those sort of things, and I think they're back there this week when they're moving poles again. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's never going to be perfect, but it's kind of, you can get a bit more in-house so that people can have a bit more visibility rather than these sort of consultants writing plans that don't necessarily work on the road. And I agree with you.
And, you know, I commend us for deferring the $300,000 business case to NZTA for one set of traffic lights on Chua and Morehouse. But it seems like a really good example of what we shouldn't be doing, is spending a whole bunch of money on consultants to justify spending money on a relatively small local project.
Needed at all.
That's part of what the working party was dealing with and discussing.
Cool. Okay, so we've got an additional resolution up there, which I think I'll be surprised if people aren't, which is around how we get small businesses to participate in the tender processing more, which is basically just saying, and it was a theme that came through in the report, and obviously you guys discussed it as a group, was how we get more local businesses involved. So Aaron's happy to move this, Mayor's happy to second it, and then we'll go on to debate. So would you like to debate?
I'll second it, yes, I just like that. Hey, it's been very good to be on this this group. One of the things that I felt come out loud and clear, Mary and I went round and saw Business Canterbury, and they're the ones that brought up the fact that it's the smaller subcontractors, smaller contractors are having trouble getting into these big jobs, because some of these jobs it's not just us, everyone, but we make it so difficult that only the big guys can price it and do it. Because you just about got to write out a copy of War and Peace to get past the first hurdle. And then in the end, in a lot of cases, they use the smaller contractor to do the job. So somewhere, someone's paying for the bit in the middle. So that was good, and it's good to see that up there if we can do it. One thing that is, we've been talking to Luke and Brent and Gavin for that matter, is they're grouping jobs together, so it's getting better. And also, I couldn't agree more with what Yanni said. Not picking on any one of them in particular, but the Norwest Arc itself was $3 million worth of consultants on that job. Now, we can employ a lot of people for that. And fair enough, if you've got something like the wastewater treatment plant, which is activated sludge, you need specialist stuff. But if you're just doing a footpath with a bit of curb and some trees and stuff, that's not the end of the world. And we've got the people that can do it. And I think we should hire more people. and do it. So I'm very happy to have been involved. It was good, and the system is getting better. And if we can get smaller contractors in to do stuff, it's going to be good.
Anyone else? Aaron? Oh, you moved and seconded, so then we'll vote. Yep.
Yeah, so a couple of things. It's great that the number 2's gone up there. And I do agree on Yanni's point that he has raised multiple times, and he's not the only one here. I know Phil's done it as well, around in-housing some of that contractor stuff. We're halfway through the Cycleways program, the MCR's program. It's not going anywhere. It might be delivered slightly differently in the future, but it will still be delivered. And I think that the rest of the program should be done from internal engineers and designers that work closely with the community boards to get the best outcome. And I think that'll keep the costs down as well. But I think we should move away from the model we've used for the first half and look at potentially a different model going forward on that one. So I look forward to some work into that and potentially be told why we can't do that, but we certainly will, some of us will push for it. And if there's a good reason we can't, but I think we could. And then the other one is around letting in smaller contractors. Phil's mention of War and Peace should not be lost on the councillors. It is incredibly onerous to get a council contract. And the paperwork is phenomenal. And for some businesses, it's literally weeks worth of work and hiring a consultant to put in for a job that you might not or probably won't get. That's not an inclusive council that's looking to grow local business. And to move away from some of the larger monopolies. So I think even part of that process will be if this working group's given another life, is to look at how we can make that easier and then start talking to people about coming in. But that process would have to be easier because the current one just cuts them out. They can't, they're just not going to get in. It's way too hard. And like Phil said, they end up working for the other contractor. And I've seen the number differences between what the subbies getting paid and what the job is. And they know what the person who got the job is, but they know they can't get those contracts. So they still do them and they happily do them and they do a good job, but we can skin this cat differently, and I think there are some savings going forward.
Well, thank you. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. We're good? Yep, so I'll put that to vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried.